Hey, welcome back, everyone. It is Andrew Nemani, your host of Permission to Shine podcast, where I get to highlight the most inspiring, humble people from around the world. I am so glad you are here today to listen to this very special episode with Paul Price. But first, I've been around a little bit. I popped over to London, got to attend the largest international conference for podcasting. Figure since I'm doing this thing and bringing you guys episodes on a bi-monthly basis, I need to be learning and evolving, right? And making sure that I'm valuing your guys' time. So picked up some new tips and tricks over there. Get this. There's 4.2 million podcasts in the world, and there's 180 million listeners in the United States. And so I just feel super lucky that you guys take the time to tune in to these inspiring, humble stories. And so from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. We just wrapped up a weekend in Joshua Tree. Guys, if you have not been to Joshua Tree, you got to check this place out. We literally were in the middle of nowhere. I went with two buddies of mine, Connor and Nick, and it was so amazing to walk out of our Airbnb and see nothing and hear complete silence. In a world where we have so much going on, I just think it's so important to go and to find that silence. And what I'm realizing for myself is that the more I remove these distractions in life, the more I find, happiness and fulfillment. And the more I realize and pay attention to my self-talk, and a lot of times it's negative, and so I'm just really trying to keep kind of inventory of how I'm talking to myself. And I'm doing that by finding the silence. So here's your sign. Go throw yourself in the middle of the desert with some good buddies, not too many people, and people you trust and love and you can have some deep conversations with. It was a really special time. And so thank you, Joshua Tree, for having us and helping me remove distractions. Guys, let's talk about Paul Price. What a legend and a humble legend. I had to beg him to get in the studio because he's like, no one wants to hear from me. But let me tell you, you are going to love what he has to say. He ran merchandising for Burberry for 10 years. He was CEO at TopShop, and he got his start in the Bloomingdales training program, which is a legendary start. He graduated from Princeton, all of his friends go into investment banking, which you'll hear, and he kind of went down the road less traveled. So big kudos to you, Paul. He's going to talk about how he caused the biggest search and rescue mission west of the Mississippi. Hilarious story. He discusses how to effectively deliver feedback, something he learned from his boss, Angela, who was running Burberry. She is totally my crush. She's amazing. Talks about what he learned about luck from Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos. The question he asked everyone, especially on a first date. So if you're somebody who's dating, pay attention to this. It's a great question. Guys, please enjoy this amazing conversation with Paul Price. If you enjoy this episode, if you enjoy Permission to Shine podcast, please do me a favor, tell a friend about it, forward them this link, have them check it out for themselves. I hope it makes a difference in their life. All right, guys, enjoy this conversation with Paul Price, and I will talk to you again very soon. Okay, we're new friends, Paul. And
we are.
What I'm trying to figure out is how you had such a successful career in fashion. You've done a million things.
Yeah.
And I'm obsessed with figuring out the why behind things.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out, why do you think you were able to excel at something that so many other people tried to do?
Well, I grew up in Spokane, Washington, which is not considered the most fashionable place in the world. And my mother was from Seattle. My dad was more or less from Spokane, and he was a traveling shoe salesman and ended up taking over the local general store in town because the shoe concession was doing better than the rest of the store. So he bought the store. My mom was obsessed with Yves Saint Laurent back in the 70s. And so my dad would say to my mom, okay, you can buy 2 things every season. And so we would go to Seattle and she would take me out of school and she would say, oh, we're going to go to the fashion show at the Frederick and Nelson store. I mean, this isn't like we're going to Paris to the couture show. We're going to the department store in Seattle to see Saint Laurent because it was the only Saint Laurent department other than Los Angeles on the West Coast. So anyway, and then I would sit there and go to the show, and then my mom would say, okay, well, this is the Russian collection, and, there's going to be some, I was like 12 or 11, there's going to be some naked women, there's see-through blouses, and it's art, it's not, and so I was really into it. And then on the weekends, I'd work for my father in his department store, And I'd be, working in the warehouse, and then I'd be working in the shoe department. And then he'd have me in the, and then like I'd be at the popcorn counter. And then I'd come home from work, and then my dad was like, "How was work?" And I would say, "Great." And he goes, "Well, there's a rumor going around." He goes, "Well, not even a rumor." He said, "The head cashier says that you're putting 3 extra pumps of butter in the popcorn when you make it." And I go, "Yeah, I am." He goes, "My dad's, why are you doing that?" I go, "Because it tastes really good." My dad goes, "Well, you know that costs money, right?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, we charge 10 cents for a bag." And he said, "So," he goes, "if you're going to put 2 extra pumps, we're going to have to charge 25 cents a bag." And he said, "So I want you to think about that. Do you think you can get 25 cents?" I go, "But the popcorn tastes so much better, Dad." He goes, "Do you think that we can get 25 cents? You can do whatever you want. It'll be your decision. If you want to do extra pumps, we're going to take the price up." He goes, "But we're going to monitor the sales and see if you're right or not or whatever." So he goes, "You can think about it. Let me know tomorrow." So at dinner, have you decided on the popcorn price? I said, "I think we have to leave it at 10 cents because I don't think the 2 extra pumps are good, but not that good." So anyway, so I kind of grew up in this world. So I went to school back east, and I went to Princeton, and I'm only saying that because when everyone graduated, all of my friends had these more or less fancy jobs. They're all going to investment banking and whatever. And I went into the Bloomingdales training program, and I was making a fraction of what all my friends were making. And they're like, "What are you, what are you doing?" I go, "Well, this is what I do. I'm like, just from my experience, I know what's going to sell. Like if there's like a table of 10 things, I'm pretty darn good at picking out the one thing that you're gonna want to buy, Andrew, in 6 months." I got, weird job, Bloomingdale's training program.
What city?
I was in New York. And then I get a call from this headhunter. He said, "Oh, this guy, Mickey Drexler, heard about you, and he heard you're some hotshot buyer at Bloomingdale's, and, would you like to meet him?" And this is back in the day when there's no cell phones or anything. So I did my research, and I went to the New York Public Library. I got a microfiche. I researched articles on Mickey Drexler. And so when I showed up, I said, "Oh, well, you're supposed to be out in the stores on a Friday." He goes, "How do you know that?" I go, "Well, in Wall Street Journal 8 years ago, it says that's what you do." And it's like, "How do you, it's called microfiche, So he goes, "Oh, come out and shop with me." So anyway, so he hired me on the spot because he turned the Banana Republic from a safari concept into a modern clothing concept. And I was his first buyer. So then I moved to San Francisco. And then so I didn't go to graduate. I always say I didn't go to graduate school. I went to the school of Mickey Drexler.
What's he doing now?
He's running, he owns Alex Mill, which is.
Oh, yeah.
So Mickey then went on to J. Crew, made J. Crew cool again. And then.
Was he running J. Crew?
Yeah, he was the CEO, chairman. Mickey's a genius. So he came up with the concept of Old Navy, came up with the concept of Gap Kids. And so his son started Alex Mill, and now Mickey's the CEO and chairman of Alex Mill. So anyways, that's what he's doing.
So Bloomingdale's was kind of your foundation.
Yeah.
What are the lessons that you took away from that?
I don't think no one's going to give a crap what I have to say about that because it's like very
Let them decide, Paul.
The trade. All right.
You're stuck here now.
Well, it's funny because
wait, sit down. Don't leave the studio. No,
when I first started, I was into fashion. I was reading GQ and just all I get my hands on. Again, this is back in 1984, and I got placed in the China and Silver department. And I was like, I shouldn't be in the China and Silver. I know nothing about China and Silver. What am I doing in China and Silver as a trainee? This is so stupid. So I said, I demand to see Mr. Marvin Traub. He was the king of retail.
And who's Marvin, for the people who don't know?
He was the president of Bloomingdale's.
For like 22 years.
And then he started Traub and Associates, which was a investment business. And consulting business. And then unfortunately he passed away several years ago. But he was, I would say most people would say he was the original before Bert Tansky or Mickey Drexler. He was the king. He was amazing. So I would go up, his office was behind the towel department, and it was a private little trap door. You have to know where it was. So I'd open up the door, I'd go to his assistant's office. I need to speak to Mr. Traub. I'm like some 21-year-old, like, who, excuse me? I go,
were you known for your courage and confidence?
I've always been quite confident. So anyway, so she said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Traub is not available." Every day I'd go up there, literally every day for 3 weeks. And I went up there one day, as I did, and I said, is Mr. Traub there? She's like, no. And he goes, yes, he is. Who is this Paul Price kid? Like, come in here. What is your boy? I heard you're like, he's nice. He wasn't a jerk. He was like, who the hell is this kid? He said, get in here. I come in here. He goes, sit down. I go, what is so urgent that you need to speak to me about? I go, Mr. Traub, you made a huge mistake. I go, you put me in China and silver. I said, I am like a designer guy. I said, I've seen American Gigolo like 12 times at the movie theater. And it's my favorite movie because that's when Giorgio Armani outfitted Richard Gere. And that's what launched his menswear collection. And I know everything about men's fashion. I should be in men's designer. And he goes, Mr. Price, don't you think that I know what the hell I'm doing? I said, well, I'm not questioning you. He goes, well, you are questioning me. And he goes, the reason why, he goes, if I put you in men's designer, you would go and say, oh, well, I like that black jacket and I like that blue coat and I like that tie. Because you would be personalizing all of it. And he goes, you're in China and silver. And he goes, what are you learning about China and silver? I go, oh, well, I have an Upper East Side lady and she likes to come in and then she likes, she usually likes to have, her tables are usually have 12. So we have to make sure that we've got 12 place settings because they're big houses. And he goes, you're understanding your customer. And he goes, if I had put you in the designer thing, you would have personalized it all. He goes, you need to understand your customer first and foremost. And he goes, and I guarantee to you, I'm leaving you in China and silver. And I guarantee that you're actually going to love China and silver when you're done with it, which was true. I ended up loving China and silver. But sort of, anyway, so it was a bit like, know your customer.
Wow.
Basic stuff, but
Well, I think that says a lot. And that's why you've gone on to do so much. If you had the courage to go to Marvin in your early 20s.
And listen to your customer. Okay, so listen to this. So I was, my boss hated me because I was some hotshot kid, supposedly. I'm not saying I was some hotshot kid, but I was in this new training program or whatever. And she was like, probably thought, oh, this kid's going to someday probably be my boss, the way they're treating him.
Which automatically puts a jealousy target right on your
Right. I'm just being honest. I don't think she liked me because I think she thought I was going somewhere maybe.
That's a common theme with high school.
Because Mr. Traub would walk around and he would say, oh, hello, Mr. Price. How do you know Mr. Traub? How does he know you? I go, oh, well, I was up in his office. Why were you in his office? I said, well, I said I didn't want to work in this department. Why did you do that? So she was like, how did you what? Mr. Traub knows your name? Doesn't even know my name. And I'm the department. Anyway, my salespeople were off the floor for some reason because they were ridiculous and lovely. And there was this woman and she was standing there and she had like 4 men around her or something, but I didn't really understand it. And she said, I need a silver sets. And I said, oh, well, I've got a really nice set. I've got a Reed and Barton and it's a set of 200 and it's a service for, what is that, 12 or something. You get the knives and the forks and the serving pieces, whatever. And it comes in a wooden box and it's $895. It's silver plate. And she goes, but I need 250. I go, well, no, it comes in 200. I go, I don't have a set of 250. I said, I've got a set of 200. And I go, I can augment it to get you up to 250 pieces. We can buy, 8 more 5-piece place settings and we can make a service for 16. And I said, but I can't break up another set of 200. She's like, but I want 250. I can't do 250. I said, I can do 200. So this went on and on for like literally 10 minutes. And she was getting increasingly pissed off. Right? She goes, I need to speak to your manager. Can you get your manager, please? I march back. I go, I've got a customer out there and she's not listening to me. And I said, I tell her about the Reed and Barton, the 200, and we're walking out. She's like, really? I go, no, she's really mad. Like, she's really mad. And she's standing there. So we're walking out and she goes, is that lady over there, is that the customer? I go, yeah. She goes, you idiot. Do you know who that is? I go, no. She goes, that's Imelda Marcos. Oh, it's Imelda Marcos. Oh. So I go over there. She goes, I have been trying to talk to your guy. And remember I said she wasn't listening to me. She goes, he's not listening. She goes, I want to buy 250 sets of his 200-piece sets. Meaning she wanted to buy 250 of the 200 sets. It was the biggest sale in the China and silver history. I wasn't listening. I was just being a little cocky kid. And I would have walked the biggest sale in the history of and so Ellen, of course, loved that because now little Wonder Boy fucked up, and she's like, you almost blew the biggest sale because you don't listen. You need to listen. It's not all about you. It's not about what you think, whatever. Anyway, so you have to listen.
That is legendary.
Yeah, I'm not.
You've never forgotten that.
And she was buying them for all heads of state. So it was her.
Because she was a Filipino politician.
Yeah, and remember she had the huge shoe collection, and she was a shopper. So she was buying 250 sets, I guess, for all the diplomats that she gives presents to. Whoa. So we had to then ship them off to the U.S. Embassy and the.
You never forgot it.
I must screw that one up. Never forgot it, Andrew.
Wait, so Ellen, who hated you.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of us, myself and like our listeners have had, especially if you're somebody who's like achieving for a lot, your boss can get jealous. What do you do in that situation?
Well, as I've gotten older, I usually, I choose my boss. And, you get headhunted quite a bit, right? And it's a great company, but you don't like the boss. Or if it's a great boss and you don't like the company, it's a no. But if it's a great company who has great potential and there's a boss that you're going to learn from, then that's when I would take the job.
And what are those traits that you look for in a boss?
Empathetic, fair, smart. It's funny because Angela once, she had 16 direct reports when I was at Burberry. So I was the chief merchandising officer at Burberry and she was the CEO.
Like 10 years, right?
Yeah. And Christopher Bailey, wow, you know all this stuff. And Christopher
I do my homework, Paul.
A little bit, okay.
If you're going to take time to come to Hollywood to do this session, I mean, I got to make it worth it.
So, and Christopher Bailey was our head of design and amazing genius. So we had a really great team there for 10 years. It was kind of in the heyday of bringing Burberry back to whatever. Anyway, it was really fun. We had a great time. Anyway, and Angela had all these different direct reports and I would be, and we're all very different, And I go, Angela, how do you handle this? She's like, you know what? She goes, I manage all of you differently. She goes, I'm fair. That's the one thing I do, and I'm empathetic, I think. She's very modest, so she wouldn't be like tooting her own horn. And she goes, but I manage you all differently. She goes, our head of stores in Europe kind of likes me to tell him what to do because he maybe has a mommy complex or something, and like he only reacts if I get a little bossy and tell him whatever. And she goes, Paul, I go, well, how do you manage me? She goes, you like a compliment. And she goes, so instead of me saying, you messed, like I would tell the head of stores in Europe, you kind of messed that up, dude, and you need to fix it. And she would say it more eloquently than that. With me, she would be like, what that time that you did this and it was really great? I'm like, yes, Angela, I do. She's like, well, she goes, this last time you didn't do that. So why don't you just really focus on doing it? Because you did it so well that time and it was so good and just focus on doing it that way again. I'm like, oh, great. That's fantastic. Anyway, so she, you just kind of manage people differently. So I think you have to have somebody that really gets you. Have you ever had a boss?
I have several.
Yeah. Are they jealous of you?
No, I've had contrast, right? I've had bosses who empowered me. I was the youngest manager at my company in company history, 90,000 employees. I was the youngest. So I think that does kind of put a target on your back,
Yeah.
But I was able to do that because I had a boss who believed in me.
Right.
Matt Zender, I'll never forget it. And I would walk down a dark alley with that guy any night of the week, right? Wow. And just knew that we would come out on top. We could do anything.
Right.
But I've had the opposing as well, where you're terrified, right? You're anxious. You don't feel creative. You don't feel supported.
Right.
It just makes all the difference.
It's horrible. And you're doing it how many hours a day and it's your life. And
you've clearly worked incredibly hard and been surrounded by just some of the most extraordinary people in the world. Who is your favorite influence?
I like them all for different reasons. I would say because as I was older and wiser, I would say Angela, Mickey was amazing though.
We do quick context on Angela. She was CEO at Burberry for how long?
She was CEO at Burberry for 10 years. And then she went on to be head of retail, SVP of retail at Apple for several years. And now she's on some amazing boards like Airbnb and Ralph Lauren. And she has this, oh gosh, if I don't get the name right, it's the International Children's.
Save the Children.
Save the Children. Thank you. Oh, I would have been terrible. You're good. You're good.
I have a total crush on Angela.
She is crushable. And, she does the TED Talks and she's actually, when she left, she goes, oh, good. She goes, now we can be friends. And so we've remained, we're friends now. And
That says a lot.
Yeah.
Paul, if Angela was sitting in this seat where you are right now, and I said, what do you think about Paul Price?
No.
What would she say?
Well, she's always said that she and I shared something in common, which is a compliment to have her compare me to her, is that we're 50 left brain, 50% right brain, that we sort of have we can manage a creative team and we can manage a financial team. And I think I'm kind of 50-50, as is she. I was actually working for her for a while because I was running Lucky Brand Jeans, and Jean and Barry were the founders, and they needed somebody to run the business part of it, whatever. So I was doing it, and Angela was at Liz Claiborne at the time, and Liz Claiborne was a holding company for Juicy Couture and Lucky Brand Jeans. So Angela would go out and acquire these brands, and then they would, it was various brands were under this sort of thing. And then Angela left Liz Claiborne to go to Burberry. And then she called me and she said, I'm leaving. And I go, oh, darn it, because I kind of took the job partly because of you, but also Jean and Barry, who I adore. Anyway, so I should add them to the list. They were great guys. So then Angela said after a year, because she couldn't speak to me for a year because of her clauses and stuff in her contract. And she goes, come work with us at Burberry. So I met Christopher and whatever. So I left.
Who's Christopher?
Christopher Bailey was our head of design, and he's an absolute genius. Like, he's sort of, revered in the fashion world. Like, he was at Gucci under Tom Ford, head of women's, and then he took over the helm of Burberry, head of design there. And he's just amazing. So
I'm in the presence of greatness today.
No, I was in the presence of greatness. So anyway, so I had a big life in LA, and I had a boyfriend. He had 3 kids that he had adopted from Kazakhstan. And I basically was kind of living with him. And I came back from my trip to London, and I said, Brad, I'm going to leave Lucky and I'm going to move to London. He goes, what are you doing? I go, well, you can bring the kids. And, he goes, I can't move the kids. They're 4, 6, and 7. And what are you talking about? And I go, well, I've got to do this because I always wanted to live, at the time it was in Europe. I go, I want to live in the UK. I want an experience. He goes, but you don't know anybody there. I go, I don't. So I was in my 40s, and I'm going to do this. And I went, and I literally left everything here in LA. And I moved there, and I literally didn't know one person. And I had a list of all these people that friends said, oh, call blah, blah, and this and that, whatever. So I chose like 5 people, and I ended up like calling someone that was fine because I didn't want to socialize with people from work. So I wanted to make my own friends. So I started going out to bars, and I'd go out, some of them gay bars. And, I met some gay journalists and some things like that and whatever. So I started getting these like really fun friends. It was early days, and I would have parties at my house, like Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, and it would be like sometimes they'd go late, but I'd go to work, and so I get a call from Angela's assistant, and Anne. This was like 6 months into the job. Angela needs to see you. It was a Tuesday. Angela needs to see you. It's really important. I go, well, I touch base with her every Thursday at 2. She's, I know, Paul, but she needs it. I go, am I in trouble for something? She goes, I think so. I think you are. I go, well, what? She's, I'm going to try and find out, but you've got to be here.
Key lesson, you made friends with Anne.
You got to be, well, Anne's great. I'm still friends with her too. I go, so I get to Angela's office. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? So Angela closes the door. She goes, sit down. She goes, this is not going to be pleasant. You are not going to like what I'm about to say. And she goes, I just want you. She goes, and this isn't pleasant for me either, by the way. And she goes, you need to hear me out, and I don't want you to speak until I'm done. Okay. She goes, word is it out in the street that you're having late night parties at your house, at your flat, and you've got all these people coming over, and it's like during the week. She's like, not even the weekend. And I go, but Angela, Paul, listen. And she goes, and they go quite late, and there's sometimes I've heard 50 people at your house at like 2 a.m. on a Wednesday. She said, I'm not telling you what to do. She goes, I don't really give a shit. She goes, you show up to work, you actually show up early, you do your job, you do it really well, you understand our customer. And she goes, and I think partly, you doing all of this and going out and being social is good for our business because you're understanding our customer and you're social, whatever you're doing. She's like, I don't care what you do. I really don't care what you do. I'm not telling you if you're drinking. I'm not telling you to stop drinking. Like, whatever it is. She goes, all I'm telling you is that be careful who you invite back to your house, because not everybody you've invited back has it in for you in a good way. She goes, they're the ones spreading these rumors, and you don't need that. And you don't need bad people in your circle. So she goes, I think you just need to be a little bit more discerning on who you bring back to your house. Which was like, and I walked out of her office like skipping. Anne goes, are you in trouble? I go, I don't think I am. No, I'm not. And that's why Angela was so good. She's like, don't change who you are. I love who you are. Just, you're not surrounding yourself necessarily with the right people to make you the best person that you can be. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really good advice.
It probably made you quite loyal to her, I would imagine.
I was absolutely. I told her that story, like, I think last summer. She didn't remember it, of course.
I'm sure you've had a ton of high moments through all of it and a lot of fun moments.
Yeah.
When you think about kind of the shit moments, the moments where you were the most like affected painfully, what comes to mind, either professionally or personally?
When business is bad and you have to lay off people at work, like when, 2008 and the financial crisis and all that kind of stuff, that is not fun. And when you have to let people go on your team, or, you're scaling back, I mean, that's never, I think that's probably the worst of it. Bad business, like, you learn your lessons, if it's the economy and you can't control certain things, that's a harder thing to navigate. But, I haven't really had anything too horrible. I think having to let,
because you're an optimist too.
I am an optimist, but having to let people go who didn't deserve it, that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard thing to do.
And the fashion industry gets a bad rep sometimes, I feel like, as somebody who's not totally in it.
Yeah.
Do you think that's fair?
Well, I think every industry has its demons and some bad people. I don't think it's just the fashion people. I think that maybe because of what we sell and what we do, it's not perceived as saving lives. But how I look at it, so I think that it could be a bit superficial maybe, and that people can be superficial, which is, I would say there's probably more superficial people in the fashion world.
How do you not let that get to you?
You have to laugh at it. I mean, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. Yeah, right? But I also look at it because when I was at TopShop, I was like getting a little depressed because, wow, what am I doing? Maybe I was going through a midlife crisis. I don't know. But it's like, what am I doing? And like, I'm just selling a bunch of clothes, and probably too many clothes, and I'm making too many clothes, and like, it's not good for the world. And then I'm like, well, you know what? I'm bringing happiness to a 14-year-old girl who wants to look great and wants to have confidence wearing something great. And I can bring her some fashion that makes her feel good about herself for not a lot of money. And that actually is not a bad thing. And so I do think there is some good to it. I think clothing and dressing can give you confidence, especially as a young person, when you need it the most at times. And, clothes can make you feel good. I mean, I love, some people don't give a crap about clothes, but I like to dress. It makes me feel good. Right?
I love it. It's such a fun form of expression.
Yeah. And it's not like you ever spend a lot of money. And, what's hotter than a guy in jeans and a white T-shirt, and that's
doesn't have to be, super extravagant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I love in New York. Like somebody who just goes super simple, but they're just so badass and they can pull it off so well.
So badass. Did you see the Met? There was the Met
last night, yes.
Last night, and I thought there were some people that looked pretty good last night. But, it turns into a costume show.
You missed out on the party. We met on a Friday night, a month ago. And
that's right.
You should have came to the party Saturday. Darn it was so stylish.
I'm sure.
And you mentioned Kazakhstan earlier.
It was in Malibu.
It was in Malibu. Right? Beautiful house.
Like, when you say stylish, was it just a stylish group of people?
Like Aaron Slim was, the photographer back in the day? Yeah. That was the theme for our friend Thomas Pierce. Slim Aaron. Excuse me. Yes. Thank you.
Right.
And so people just like really dressed nicely. And it's a great crowd. One of the people that I met, turns out we were chatting for a while, and I ended up learning about a week later when we met up for coffee. She's from Kazakhstan, and she's an ex-Russian spy trained on seduction specifically.
What? Like she would seduce the other spies?
No, she would seduce. So she would seduce like the bad guy, you could say, right? Whoever Russia wanted to get intel from.
Come on.
She would go get them to fall in love with her through sex and like actually like being in love with her, like actually psychologically in their brain get them to become addicted to her sex specifically. To get like trade secrets and stuff.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Crazy. She's going to come on the podcast, and she has her whole.
That's one I'd want to listen to.
I mean,
not this one. She's. Party go late?
It did. I won't say how late. We had fun. It was hard to get an Uber at that hour in Malibu.
In Malibu,
yes.
Tough. Yeah. Oh, that's fun.
Speaking of being out late, you mentioned to me that there's a story of you on a mountain.
Oh,
I want to hear that.
I was such a ding-a-ling. I was 13 years old, and I used to be a little ski racer. Remember, I'm from Spokane, Washington, and we have 4 seasons. So on the weekends, I'd go ski race, whatever, and train, whatever. Anyway, so my best friend Steve, he and I were in the ski racing together. Anyway, so my school that I went to, they had one day a year where the school bus would take us up to the mountain and everyone could go skiing. It was like a ski day, which was like quite like nice of a school to do that. So I was in 7th grade, so I was 13 or 12 or something, and I was 13. So there was this guy Scott that he wanted to go skiing with us, and we wanted to ditch him because he was sort of annoying. So we were quite good skiers. So we're like, oh, and we knew the mountain really well. So we're gonna go through the trees and not on the regular run. And so we went through the trees to ditch Scott. And so like so mean of us, that was really mean. So we ended up going over like sort of the wrong side of the hill. And we thought that we were traversing over, and we actually kind of were going down. And so then so then it started getting dark, and we're like these 2 kids, and we had to take our skis off. And then I, like an idiot, I said, oh, my dad always said to follow a creek down, because it's going to lead somewhere. I don't know really what that meant, but so there was a little creek that we followed. I fall in the creek. My right foot falls in the creek, fills it full of water, my boot, like an idiot. So then I take my boot off, take my sock off, put my hat where my sock was, put the boot back on, which I guess was somewhat intelligent. And then it got so dark. And then my dad always said, if you ever get lost, like build a little snow cave to stay warm. So I tell people, oh, we built a snow cave. I think people have this vision that was like, we had turrets and, like domes and stuff. It was like literally, like a sort of the side of under a tree in the middle of the woods. We were sort of panicking all night, and one of us would hallucinate. The other one would be like, Steve, it's going to be okay. We're going to be found. And
how many people are you with?
Just my friend Steve.
It's just you 2?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
2 13-year-olds. And it was sub-zero weather, and it was snowing. So it couldn't be worse. So we're in the middle of the woods, all alone, pitch black. It's snowing and it's sub-zero weather, and we're just all alone, and it's quiet and it's still, and we're screaming, and it's like, what the hell, right? It's pitch black. So
it's terrifying.
Terrifying. So in the morning, we hear helicopters, and it ended up being the largest search and rescue mission west of the Mississippi ever, I think, at that point. And they had like, I don't know, 10 helicopters.
Your poor parents.
400 people on foot. My dad was at the top of the mountain with walkie-talkie. My mom was at home waiting for the phone in case they heard anything. They had all these snowmobiles and people on foot and volunteers. I mean, it was like all these people looking for these 2 idiot kids. And so we heard a helicopter above us. It was, and we went to get up, and neither of us could stand up because we were so frostbitten. And remember, my foot's frozen in, and so we start yelling at the helicopter as if they could hear us. But it's good that we did that, because there were 3 search and rescue guys that were following our trail, and they had lost it because of the snow. So suddenly they lost us, and they were heading in the wrong direction, and they heard faintly in the woods us screaming for the helicopter. And so then it makes me cry right now when we heard the response back. It was like, oh my God, So anyway, so they came and they got us, and they hoisted us up on a helicopter 300 feet through the trees, and we got to the top of the hospital, and there's like reporters left and right, snap, 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 and it was made the New York Times, and it was like embarrassing. And so anyway, the doctor comes in, who is a family friend of ours, and my mom comes in, he says, Dr. Hammaker says that they're gonna have to amputate your leg because they can't get your boot off, and he said that it's a goner. And I go, that's fine. I'm absolutely fine with that. And then they ended up saving then it was going to be below my knee, then it was going to be my ankle, then it was going to be on my toe. And thank goodness they saved all my limbs. I mean, it would have been fine if they didn't, but Anyway, but it was quite a, I never doubted that we wouldn't be found, which is maybe that's just innocence. Maybe that's because I knew my parents loved me and they wouldn't give up. And maybe I was just stupid.
So what kind of feeling do you walk away from an experience like that with?
Well, it was, I forget which one it is. You have a lifeline. I've got on my lifeline, whenever I've had my palm read, which is about 8 times, they all say, oh, when you were like about 10, it looks like you died, and I've got this like thing in it. It's somewhere. I've got that thing in it. So I realize I probably could have died. Like that was, but I never thought I would.
Are you a believer in luck?
I am a believer. No, I'm not a believer in luck. I do think luck comes. There was, you know what it is? It's not luck. I think it's going through life with your eyes open. I think so. There was this guy, Tony Hsieh. He founded Zappos, which was a shoe.
Incredible entrepreneur.
And unfortunately, he had he unfortunately passed away. But when
tragically too.
Tragically, he sort of went down a wrong path in life, I think. And, incredibly successful, made a lot of money, put a lot of people to work. Like, just he had a vision, smart guy. Anyway, so when I was at Burberry, Angela would have certain people come and speak to her management team, which was so generous. Like we had Will.i.am come, we had, Tony Hsieh, we had, what's his name from Starbucks, Schultz came.
Oh yeah, Howard Schultz.
We had Howard Schultz. We had amazing, like 40 of us in a room, and like these guys are speaking to us.
That's right up my alley. That's so fun.
No, you would have loved it. And Angela sat up there and interviewed them. But with Tony, Angela said to the question, Tony, you're fascinated by luck. And he said, I was fascinated by knowing, because everyone said, oh, Tony, you're always so lucky. You've made hundreds of millions of dollars and all of your businesses are successful and you're just a lucky guy. And, you married a beautiful woman and, blah, blah. He goes, all these things like, oh, Tony, you're lucky. He goes, maybe I am lucky. He goes, maybe there is such a thing as luck. And he says, so I'm going to do a little. So I did a test. He went to Harvard. And he said, I went with the Gallup people or whatever it was. And he goes, we created a study to question if there's such a thing as luck or not. And so what the exercise was is they interviewed thousands of people on the phone, and they would say, oh, Andrew, they ask you random questions. Oh, do you walk on the left side or the right side of the street usually? Have you ever found anything? Do you like vegetables or fish for dinner? Have you ever won won anything? So they peppered some of these things that you would normally think were luck amongst thousands of other questions. You didn't know why you were being interviewed and for what. So they chose 100 people that answered the luck questions, found money, won this, went to a great school, whatever, things that were kind of fortunate, things that you would consider, oh, you're just lucky, to people that had really bad luck. Never found anything, never succeeded in anything, never met anybody, never went on a date, never, just bad luck, sorry sacks. So they had the 200 people come to a room, and he had a fake New York Times, and someone said, they didn't know why they were there. And he said, okay, here's the exercise. All you need to do is to go through this newspaper, and you have an hour to do it, and you just have to count how many photographs there are. And if you get the amount right, you get $100. And that's it. That's all you have to do. So embedded in the newspaper, in the articles and words, it said, don't count the photos. There's 538 photos. If you hand it in within the next 10 minutes, you'll get $500. And it was like peppered throughout, and so it was something like some don't go any further. If you hand it in now, you get your $535. You're never going to count these right. Everyone always gets it wrong. Trust us, it's $535. Hand it in now. 95% of the people who were considered good luck handed the newspaper in within 10 minutes. 99% of the people with bad luck counted. Most of them got it wrong because counting from 1 to 535, you forget. You're like, what was it? 534, whatever. And his conclusion was, and I think it's right, is that those who go through life with their blinders on, meaning they don't look around, they don't observe, they're not looking at opportunities, are the ones that don't have opportunities around. They don't see an opportunity. And those with their blinders off, they're like, you're walking down the street, you're seeing things, whatever, through life as a metaphor. Like, those are the people that usually get things in life probably that are perceived as, oh, you just have luck. And I really do believe that. So I think that it's have your blinders off.
Be aware.
Be aware.
That's beautiful, Paul.
Isn't that great?
That's
For me, that was a bit of a great lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at Stagecoach, and there was a girl, and she's like, oh, I don't date. And she's like kind of miserable. And I kind of gave her the blinders. I go, you're sitting here at this party. I go, your blinders are so on right now. I go, you're looking down, you're looking at your phone, you're bitching that you don't have a boyfriend. I go, there are so many hot guys around here. And like, blinders off, girl. Like be present, like look around, be like avail, be here.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think we all need that advice.
It's a good one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
What are you most excited for that's coming up in Paul Price's future?
Well, I always like my little projects that we're doing, and so I consult on various things, and I've got this hockey team, the New York Islanders, and so working on stuff from there. We're opening up a new shopping village concept from the UK and Europe called Bicester Village. Just went outside London. So we're opening up our first one outside New York. It's called Belmont Park Village. And it's a great, beautiful shop. Nothing's going to be like it in the US. It's going to be incredible. And that opens in September.
Where at?
It's on Long Island at Belmont Park Racetrack. And so we've got our arena there, and then we're building this 180 unit, 160 stores, luxury to premium, and great restaurants and things like that. So we're doing that, which is exciting. And then I'm like, I don't know. I just I've got my friend Patrick Cox is in town. He started his new clothing line. He's coming in from Ibiza, and I'm having people. Are you coming? Did I invite you to that?
Yes, you did.
And I'm just excited about that. I'm just excited to be like, helping my friend out and doing something fun. So, I live. I don't look back too much. I look forward. I'm dating. I kind of like dating. It's kind of fun. So I would say there's one major thing, but I'm, looking for new projects to do. So I'm always kind of like, blinders off, I wouldn't say there's one thing that's like, oh my God, but the project.
I feel like you've always had a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. There's just fun little projects that are happening. So I had a better answer to that.
I think it's perfect. And I just feel so damn lucky to have you as a friend now.
Oh, I'm so excited that we're friends. I love that.
But before I knew.
Sorry I had to torture you with this interview.
I feel so lucky that we got to do it. And I think the listeners are going to love it. You're just such a wealth of knowledge and inspiration and humility.
You're sweet.
And before I even knew all of your amazing accomplishments, being CEO of several companies, head of merchandising at Burberry, I was inspired by you because of what you said. You're like, hey, I have this question I ask on every date. And I kind of start the date with it. It's like, tell me about your oldest friend.
Yeah.
And that hit. So my friends are everything to me. My community is everything to me. And that really struck a chord with me. And so I was like, I want to get him on my podcast. And I started talking to your friends, and they're like, oh yeah. And he also has all this insane professional experience, which to me was such an afterthought
but
of it all.
But it's true though, because, you go on these blind dates and it's like, they go, oh, my oldest friend is, or like a year ago. So and then the ones that
red flag.
Red flag. It's like, your friendships or relationships, obviously, and just if you can't sustain a friendship over 15, 20 years, 30 years, you're not certainly going to be a very good boyfriend or girlfriend, right? I don't think. Anyway, it's just all those things. But it is a good question. And it's better than how many brothers and sisters do you have? Where are you from? Right? So
I love it.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Andrew.
Love you, Paul.
Love you, baby.
That's it. Thank you so much for tuning in to Permission to Shine, the podcast dedicated to sharing the most humble, inspiring stories that I know you will love. Again, this is Andrew Nemani. I appreciate you tuning in. As always, please reach out. Please follow on Instagram, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple. Leave us your thoughts. Let us know who you want as a future guest or what's your takeaways from this conversation. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great, great week.